Welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we are going to practice summary questions. So we have a summary passage to answer. This summary passage is Wassce past question. So after practicing, we'll know how to answer questions. Now, we have learned that to answer summary questions, we first need to read the question to get the demand of the question. So let's read the question for the demand. Question 1. In 3 sentences, one for each, summarize the problems associated with owning the desktop telephone. So we are looking for problems associated with desktop telephone. So our next step is to go to the passage to find the problems associated with desktop telephone. So let's go to the passage. So in one of our lessons, we said that in Wassce exams, question 1, the answer can be from the first to second, third paragraph. So we just go straight to the first paragraph, then we start reading. So we are reading, and we should be mindful that we are looking for problems associated with desktop telephone. So we start, have you ever considered the vast differences between the conventional desktop telephone and the modern handset telephone? The desktop telephone has one distinct function, that of making and receiving calls. Apart from that, perhaps the other use is aesthetic, adding some beauty to the furniture pieces in the room. The conventional telephone set was a status symbol, as only the rich and highly privileged could afford it. We have still not gotten to the answer yet, so keep on reading to get where the answer is. Good. So let's still move on. So we move on with the passage. So to obtain it, one had to fill many forms and have 3 well-known citizens to attest to one's sterling qualities as a highly responsible member of the society. So we can get one answer here to be a problem. Then, after paying several fees, one had to wait for several months before the telephone communications department officials would come to install the wires in order to get one set connected to the national grid. So here too we'll get answer 2 here. After that, the applicant might count himself among the privileged ones in the community, but he must not heave a sign of relief. Yet his problem may just be the beginning. The increment weather may remind him that his use of the facility is at its mercy. A rainstorm or even a strong wind can destroy some of the wires bearing poles. So we'll get 3 from here to 3. So we have underlined, this is where our answer is. So now have our answer. So what you do is that you go to the paper and write our answer in sentences. Let's start. So let's start writing our answers. So we start 1. Note that the subject is what? The desktop telephone. The desktop telephone. So we can start the desktop telephone is difficult to obtain. Full stop. Because when you read the first portion where the answer is, one need to fill many documents. One have to get people to attest that is from a very high, the person is a very high responsible and those things. So it's difficult to do. Two, we also saw some point where we have to wait for a longer time after paying several money. So we have to start the desktop telephone is expensive and time consuming. To obtain. Then 3, the desktop telephone can be affected by bad weather, or you can simply say by weather. Good. So we can see that the two, where they were saying after paying several money, then also have to wait. So when you use your own words, paying several money, that is that it is expensive to obtain, and waiting for longer time is also time consuming. So you can summarize that way. There's another instance that after obtaining it, that's not all. There's weather. So here we have summarized the one in 3 sentences, one for each. Summarize the problem associated with owning a desktop telephone. So that's what we have summarized. Let's move on to question 2. So we now move on to question 2. We state that in 3 sentences, one for each, summarize the advantages which the handset telephone has over the desktop telephone. So you're going to look at advantages that a handset telephone is having over desktop telephone. So we go to the passage and look for that. So we now continue with our passage, reading of the passage. So we start from here, continue from where we left to know that we are looking for advantages of handset telephone. So we start from here. Besides, a vehicular accident may knock down a pole or several of them. So this is part of the problem associated with a desktop telephone. So we can write it like desktop telephone can be affected by road accident. Another one that we can say that it is not even uncommon for termite to render the wooden poles useless. It's also that. So let's move on. Finally, there are some problems of the communications department officials who are noted for bringing bills late and cutting off wires for failure to pay up promptly. So here we can say that desktop telephone can be affected by communication department officials, or we can write it the communication department officials makes desktop telephone difficult to use. So these are all some of the answers that you can state them in the first one. So we are going to the second one, looking for it when you read further. So let's proceed. So like the conventional desktop telephone set, the handset has the primary function of making and receiving calls. Beyond that, there are vast differences between them. To begin with, the small handset is not much of status symbol now. It is very easy to carry about and it can be used everywhere by all and sundry. So here one answer is here. It is very easy to carry about. So what can we use to substitute for this? When something is very easy to carry about, what one word, what a noun can we use to substitute for it? Then write it. The telephone service providers have flooded the market with lines at very low prices, such that most users can boast of 2 or more lines. So we can also get another one here. If they have more services providers all over the market, what can we say about it? Gone are the days when one had to apply for a set and wait for months. Today, all that it takes is to purchase the handset, which could be very cheap and also very costly depending on one's preferences and pairs. Once it is purchased, each user could have access to dozens of functions. Apart from making and receiving calls, one could so one could so we continue. Apart from making and receiving calls, one could send text messages and receive responses within minutes. The set could be used to take pictures, which could be seen as clear as taken with a professional camera. One could also connect to the internet to read newspapers and send mails. Besides, the set could be used to store songs and could also use as radio receiver. One could use the handset to program schedules of activities. The reliable timepiece of it could be used as watch. Young ones play games on their handset and store pictures of their loved ones. So this is the passage. So we are now going to write our answers as identifier when we're reading them. So let us write our answers. So one, so we read that it could be carried easily. So we say that the handset telephone is portable. To stop and done. to the handset telephone is easy to obtain. Then 3, the handset telephone has multi functions. So these are the possible answers you can write. So we saw that it is easy to carry in your pocket, so it's meaning portable. Then you see that they have flooded the market with a lot of them, and service providers are many, so easy to obtain. Then handset is having a lot of functions, meaning say multi-functions or many functions, serve as many functions. So we have to practice more, subscribe to this channel, and have more videos. So I hope this will help you a lot, but you need to do more examples in your books so that you'll be able to overcome the problems you share with Sammy. So thank you.